Hello everybody and welcome back. In last week's arrow, we covered in the 10th incident about how the Israelites had completely displeased God by their evil actions and turned against God to go back to Egypt itself, we saw. Though Moses and Aaron, Joshua and Caleb put their effort to turn them back from their mistake, their mindset which is against God. But we can see though how God carries his justice among them. We can see now among them. And we could see in Numbers 14th chapter where he talks about this. We'll read first the 22nd to 23rd verse. So let's do that. Okay, so it says, "Not one of those who saw my glory and the signs I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times. So we can see here that God is now saying that after they saw the performances and miracles and wonders I provided them to be free from Egypt and be free people and be the God's messengers to fulfill the plan as the starting point, we can see how they tested God 10 times. He's explaining in this verse. Not one of them will ever see the land I promised an oath to their ancestors. No one who has treated me with contempt will ever see it. So we can see he insists his grace and guidance he showed to them and being patient with their disobedience, neglection and arrogance, we can see, and with what all they showed their attributes. And this 10th time though, they rejected his word, and God had had enough of this, as now they have rejected his love at the same time by showing these characters. So the verdict is those who started from Egypt to enter into the promised land will never enter the promised land apart from Joshua and Caleb, we can see. And they have since they have delivered their faithfulness towards God, and they had tried to bring the people back from their mistake, but we can see they did not. So let's us continue now for a bit more length of verses. So we'll go to 28 to 35. So let's do that. So it says, "So tell them, as surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say. In this wilderness, your bodies will fall, every one of you 20 years old or more, who has counted in the census and who has grumbled against me. Not one of you will enter the land I swore with uplifted hand to make your home, except the son of Jephunneh and the son of Joshua of son of Nun." So we can see here now what God has says. Not one of you will enter the land, he says here. And he specifically says that is grumbled. He can see here in the 29th, it says, "Every one of you 20 years or older or more." In the 29th verse it says, "will not enter this land." So let's carry on. Let's count to the 31st verse, which says, "As for your children that you said would be taken as plunder, I will bring them in to enjoy the land you have rejected." So the children will be accepted into this land but rather they will not be accepted for the land they've rejected due to the characters they have shown and the rejections towards God they've done. And then it says, the next one, "But as for you, your bodies will fall in this wilderness. Your children will be shepherds here for 40 years, suffering for your unfaithfulness." We can see, suffering for your unfaithfulness until the last of your bodies lies in the wilderness. For 40 years, one for each of the 40 days you explored, you will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to suffer to have me against you. So we can see here, God has put these people will be forced to suffer in this wilderness for 40 years. For 40 years we can see here, for the 40 days they had took to spying. And now God is saying he is doing this for them to suffer for the sins they have done, to make God against them. if I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will surely do these things to this whole wicked community, which has banded together against me, they will meet their end in this wilderness. Here they will die. So, we can see here clearly he gave the judgment according to their unfaithful action and words to prove them they are wrong, as a lesson for us, as he is a borrower for all the younger ones less than 20, and the children born in the wilderness are allowed to enter the promised land, and the Caleb and Joshua. The rest, though, have lost their privilege. So we can see, due to the actions of how they've committed the sins 10 times to test God's love and his other emotions of love, joy. We can see LGPW, love, joy, peace, and wisdom. We can see these things, they have been testing throughout. And his justice, of course, characteristic we should not forget. These characteristics, they have been tested throughout what has happened throughout these 10 instances, and God has finally put them to a rest for their actions and punished them for the rejection they have done towards God and for the rejection of the plan, as they had the privilege, but they now lost the privilege, and only the children, the ones below 20, and Joshua and Caleb will have the privilege. But we can see here, though, that even Moses and Aaron lost their opportunity. As in Isaiah 55, 8 and 9, his thoughts and ways, it says, are higher than us, like the difference between heaven and land, we can see. So we can see, as they lost their opportunity to be even Moses and Aaron. And this verse I just read in Isaiah 55, 8 and 9, it basically says that his mindset, God's mindset, is like the sky to the land. His vast and huge brain for his actions and his mindset of thinking is from the sky to the ground, while ours is just the ground and the land. That is it. And that's what this verse is trying to convey. So that's all we have for today, as we can understand from this how the Israelites had been punished for their mistakes of the 10 instances that God had stayed calm and patient towards the Israelites and showed the love to give them to the promised land as the promise to Abraham, but rather as their actions had gone to the extreme point, and despite the actions of Moses, Aaron, Joshua, and Caleb, they did not listen. God had punished the Israelites of age 20 and above, and they would never see the privilege, and they were now forced to suffer in this period of wilderness for 40 years for their mistakes due to the 40 days they spent for spying. As we can see, that was the 10th instant. So that's all for today, and we can see that's why they lost, and that's how they lost the privilege, but except the ones under the age of 20, and Joshua and Caleb and the children, and the rest, we know what happened to them. And we even know how Moses and Aaron had lost their privilege at this point, as they were both, of course, over 20 years old as well, we saw. So they lost their privilege as well, an opportunity. So that's all for today. See you next time. Bye.